does the professional part, the Super League, compete against for airtime, for fans, for players, the NWSL, or does it complement it?
Well, the opportunity, I think, right now, the amount of people who are investing in professional women's soccer, the amount of interest there is from a sponsorship perspective to an ownership to women who want to work and play in the game is unbelievable. So we've been really lucky to identify markets across the United States where women's professional soccer we know will thrive. And they're in large part complementary markets to where the NWSL is. And today with the NWSL, which is amazing, I mean, they're in an amazing position. There's 12 teams in the NWSL. There's over 100 men's professional teams in the United States. That delta is where I see opportunity for the USL Super League.
And obviously your background is in pretty much everything but digital, communications, marketing, socially conscious activations. You've been involved in everything. Your time at FIFPro, you were strategic too. How have you been able to bring all those different skills and use them to the benefit of the league? Because this won't just be about launching a league, it will be about getting commercial partners, getting television rights, getting social media coverage, getting attendances which drive revenue. So how have you been able to get different stakeholders buy-in to make this project a success?
Yeah, well, first I would say I'm a soccer lifer. I was a player before I was a coach and before I did all those other things in the game. So I'm lucky that I've been able to work across different verticals in the sport of soccer, right? It's one of the great things about SoccerX, actually, is I see people here who I was a coach with, to people I worked in social media with, to people I've, been in executive roles, with. And so everyone comes to SoccerX. For me, that's really cool. Now, as we're talking about buy-in with stakeholders, almost every meeting that we have or every conversation starts with the idea of integration, that everything we do is integrated. You can't talk about players without talking about the business and vice versa. So we really do think about the USL as an ecosystem, but within the business itself, it all has to work together. And that's something we're really, really focused on at the USL.
Give me a bit of an insight into how you bring through a young female player in North America when, unlike in Europe, football isn't necessarily the number one sport. So every single player that you're targeting at a grassroots level to come through that pyramid is potentially thinking about basketball or another sport that is equal or higher in terms of not necessarily participation, but appeal, finances, stability. Does that take a specific kind of pitch and strategy compared to perhaps in Europe?
I think in America, our girls often have this idea of playing at the next level, right? We think a lot about the college opportunity, the collegiate opportunity, and that drives a lot of interest and a lot of intent among girls playing soccer. There's, I want to say, about 3 million girls playing youth soccer in the country today, but that number gets really, really small as you get closer and, the players get older or, advance in their soccer careers. For about 40,000 playing elite college soccer, and that many are playing in college as well, for about 40,000 women playing college soccer. So there's such a vast opportunity, and now to add another women's professional soccer league on top of that just creates that visibility and the opportunity to be pro. So for us at the USL, it's about identifying the talent, creating a great space for the players to develop, but then making sure that we have connected identification pathways all along kind of the pyramid as they grow.
You may not yet know because it takes so much time and energy to build this thing and launch this thing at the Women's Super League end, but where do you expect that to be by 2026, and how can you kind of tie it into the Men's World Cup in America?
What a great opportunity, right? I watched James Johnson from Australia yesterday talked about the legacy of 2023, the Women's World Cup, and that 2 days, I think he said, after they announced that Australia had won the bid, they launched the Legacy 23 program right away. And that's something we're thinking a lot about in the United States, right? What's the legacy going to be from having the World Cup in the U.S.? And it's not just about men's football, although we love the future of men's football in America, but it's women's too. And how are we impacting the girls and the future of women's soccer? The Super League, when we think about where we're going to be by then, and where we're going to be into the long-term future. We're focused right now on immediate viability with a professional women's soccer league, and then long-term sustainability, and certainly using, the excitement, the fandom, the growth and interest in the game itself to help propel us and drive us forward.
And I know like an area you're particularly knowledgeable and passionate about is fan engagement, and every league, every team has a different aspect of that. Some are through their digital, some are through on-site activations, and there's always that challenge, isn't there, that the bigger your franchise gets, the harder it is to please everyone. I think we're seeing that in England in particular. Mary Earps was speaking about this, how 2 years ago she could sign every autograph, but now, as a Euros winner, you sign 100, 200, 500, and there's still another 500 waiting. And that is very refreshing because it shows growth, but you can never please everyone. So what does good fan engagement look like, and how can you ensure at this launch that it's in place from the start?
Yeah, well, I said earlier that one of the things we talk a lot about is being integrated. We also talk about being fan-centric. So what that means is understanding what the fan of professional women's soccer is looking for in their experience. And that engagement, like how we do fan engagement, might look different for somebody in Tampa as it looks for somebody in Dallas, right? And the fan and the consumer and what they're looking for in their women's soccer experience. So, we know that fans of women's soccer are digitally connected. They're, they love their brands, they love their club, and they love the values that their club stands for. So, we've seen a lot of success with our W League and building fan engagement. A good example is Minnesota Aurora, is a W League team for us, who's built a model with community ownership. So it's really driven by the community and what the fans are looking for in that experience, and it really does lead with the values of that club. I would say the same in Oakland. The Oakland Soul is a very successful W League team that we've had there too, and they've engaged the fans and the community, right? You go into that stadium, Oakland, Minnesota, Detroit, you go into any of these stadiums, you feel the energy, you feel the excitement around women's soccer, and that's the W League. So as we launch the professional league next fall, and we're thinking about delivering what the fans want and need in their women's soccer experience, I mean, that really eat, sleep, and breathe fan centricity. So really delivering on that as we bring the league to life, I think is a challenge and an opportunity, and I'm grateful to be able to bring my experience from digital and social media and all the things you talked about there as you introduced my background, but bring those to life through kind of this new lens with the Super League.
And just finally, there's lots of different components here to what you do, ranging from grassroots, amateur, all the way through to professional. So if people want to get involved at any kind of level, what's the best way that they can do that, or where can they find more information?
Well, I mean, obviously, more fans, first of all, is amazing, and people who want to support us and follow us on social media and learn about what we're doing along the way, our Instagram is probably the best way to do it, USL Super League on Instagram, or USLW League, for that matter. Of course, the website for the Super League, uslsuperleague.com. But on the front office, we're about to hire. I mean, I got eight teams we've already announced for 2024, and they're hiring front office staff. They're hiring. We're going to be signing players in the near future. 200 players with new jobs and plenty of front office staff. So we're all of our jobs we post on Teamwork Online, which I think is a really good resource for people to know about. It's not just the USL, it's a lot of soccer jobs in the United States get posted on Teamwork Online, and other sports too. And I think that's a great resource for people to use to get involved and learn and explore their career in sports.
Great stuff. Amanda, keep up the fantastic work you do. I'm looking forward to the launch and the continued growth of the women's USL.
Thanks.